Good evening, Nigeria. We have some major news breaking across the country today that affects every single lecturer, every university student, and really every Nigerian who cares about education. The federal government has just announced that they have reached an agreement with the Academic Staff Union of Universities, and this agreement includes a massive 40% salary increase for university lecturers across Nigeria. Now, before we get too excited or too skeptical, let me tell you exactly what is happening on the ground right now because I have been digging through everything available today to bring you the most accurate information. This is massive news that has been confirmed just 2 days ago on December 23rd, and this is genuinely historic. After what has felt like forever, years of back and forth, threats of strikes, actual strikes that disrupted the academic calendar and left millions of students sitting at home watching their dreams get delayed, the federal government and ASUU have finally signed a proper agreement. This is not just talk anymore. This is not another promise that will fade away. On December 23, 2025, both parties put pen to paper and sealed a deal that will fundamentally change things for university lecturers across Nigeria. And this new agreement is set to officially take effect from January 1, 2026. That is next week. Let me break down what this means for everyday Nigerians because this affects everyone. Your children in university, your cousins studying engineering, medicine, law, every single student in a federal or state university will feel the impact. The 40% salary increase is not a small thing. University lecturers have been earning salaries that frankly could not match the cost of living in Nigeria. Imagine someone with a doctorate degree, someone who spent years studying, researching, publishing papers, teaching hundreds of students every semester, and they are struggling to pay rent, to feed their families, to send their own children to school. This 40% increase means that a lecturer who was earning maybe 300,000 naira monthly might now be looking at over 400,000 naira. That is real money that can make a real difference in their lives. But here is where it gets even more interesting. This agreement is not just about throwing money at the problem and hoping it goes away. The deal includes something absolutely incredible for professors. When a professor retires at the age of 70, they will now receive a pension that equals their full annual salary. Think about that for a moment. If you have dedicated your entire life to educating young Nigerians, to building the minds that will run this country in the future, you deserve to retire with dignity. You deserve to know that after 40 years of service, you will not be abandoned to struggle. This pension provision is a game changer because it tells younger academics that there is actually a future in staying in Nigeria and teaching here instead of running off to universities in Ghana, South Africa, the United Kingdom, or America, where they can earn better money. The agreement also tackles something that has been a thorn in the side of Nigerian universities for decades, and that is funding. How many times have we heard stories about university laboratories that look like they are from the 1970s? Libraries with books so old the pages are falling apart, research facilities that cannot conduct basic experiments because there is no equipment. This new deal introduces what they are calling a new funding framework. What this means is that money will now be specifically set aside, allocated directly for research, for libraries, for laboratories, for equipment, and for staff development. No more of this business where university money gets diverted or shared anyhow. These allocations are earmarked, protected, dedicated solely for academic purposes. And if you think that is impressive, wait until you hear about the National Research Council proposal. The agreement includes a plan to establish this council with a mandate to fund research activities using at least 1% of Nigeria's entire gross domestic product. 1% might sound small, but Nigeria's GDP is in the hundreds of trillions of naira. 1% of that is serious money that could genuinely transform research in this country. Imagine Nigerian universities conducting world-class research on malaria, on renewable energy, on agricultural technology, on artificial intelligence, all funded properly with Nigerian money. This is how countries like South Korea, Singapore, and Israel built their economies. They invested heavily in research and education, and now look at where they are. Now, if you are enjoying this breakdown and you want to stay updated on all the major stories happening across Nigeria, make sure you hit that like button right now. It really helps the channel grow and lets me know that you appreciate this kind of detailed analysis. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss when we drop important news like this. Trust me, you do not want to be the last person to know what is happening in this country. Beyond the money and the funding, this agreement also addresses something that Nigerian academics have been fighting for since forever, and that is university autonomy and academic freedom. What this means is that universities will have more control over their own affairs. The days of politicians or government bureaucrats interfering in how universities are run should be coming to an end. The agreement specifically states that academic leaders like deans and provosts must now be elected and only professors are eligible for these positions. This ensures that the people running academic affairs actually understand academics. It's not about political connections or who knows who. It's about merit, experience, and academic excellence. There is also a very important provision that nobody involved in past industrial actions or negotiations will be victimized. This is huge because in the past, we have seen situations where lecturers who stood up for their rights, who led protests, who demanded better conditions, were later punished or sidelined by authorities. This protection clause means that ASUU members can advocate for their welfare without fear of retribution. It creates an environment where people can speak up about problems without worrying about losing their jobs or being transferred to some remote campus as punishment. Now, I know some of you are thinking, this all sounds wonderful on paper, but will the federal government actually implement it? That is the billion-naira question. ASUU themselves have already issued a statement urging the government to ensure prompt and faithful implementation. They are not naive. They know that agreements have been signed before and then ignored. They remember the 2009 agreement that took 16 years to renegotiate. 16 years! That is why this new agreement includes a clause stating that it will be reviewed every 3 years. Every 3 years, both parties will sit down and evaluate how things are going, what needs adjustment, what is working, what is not working. This regular review process is designed to prevent the kind of long drawn-out disputes that have characterized the relationship between ASUU and the federal government for decades. The timing of this agreement is also significant. We are heading into 2026, and President Tinubu's administration clearly wants to avoid the disruptions that have plagued Nigerian universities for years. Nobody wants another situation where students spend 6 years completing a 4-year degree because of constant strikes. Parents are tired of it. Students are tired of it. Employers are tired of hiring graduates who can't even remember what they learned because their education was so fragmented by strikes. This agreement, if properly implemented, could finally bring some stability to the university system. But implementation is where the rubber meets the road. The federal government needs to release the funds for this 40% salary increase. They need to establish the National Research Council. They need to provide those dedicated allocations for research and infrastructure. They need to respect university autonomy, and they need to do all of this promptly, not 5 years from now, not after another round of threats and strikes, but immediately as the agreement takes effect on January 1. Nigerians will be watching closely. University lecturers will be watching closely. Students and their parents will be watching closely. If the government fumbles this opportunity, if they make the same mistakes they have made in the past, the backlash will be severe. What do you think about this agreement? Do you believe the federal government will follow through this time? Are you a student or lecturer who has been affected by ASUU strikes in the past? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Let us have a conversation about this because education is something that affects every single Nigerian. And before you go, remember to like this video if you found it helpful and subscribe to the channel for more in-depth coverage of the stories that matter to you. We are here to keep you informed, to break down complex issues in ways that make sense, and to hold our leaders accountable. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.